Welcome into the garage area. This is our post Las Vegas show, and Christopher Bell did not end up winning four in a row. Josh Berry, in fact, gets his first win of his Cup Series career. He gets the Wood Brothers' 101st win. Ryan, let's talk about our picks a little bit. I had Joey Logano going back-to-back weeks picking him because I thought that both Phoenix and Vegas were tracks where he would be really fast, and he was, but the finishes didn't go along with it. You had Kyle Larson. Tell me where we finished this week in the races.
Well, Logano finished 15th, Larson ninth, so I got you again.
Yeah, imagine that.
um,
Logano come in on the final pit stop leading the race and went out 20th, and that's how I lost.
yeah, had a pit road issue, of course, which was the theme of the day.
Yeah.
Larson, I'm not sure if he led the most laps or not, but he had the fastest car, but I think pit strategy kind of took him out of it. So they pitted when others stayed out and banking on there not being a caution. Caution came out and he was stuck in traffic. So
Yeah.
pretty much what happened with him. So
Yeah, that I missed a little chunk of the race there in stage two, and a lot of the strategy kind of started to develop around that point because when I came back, I was like, why is the field all shuffled up? And kind of walk me through how that strategy worked and what the strategies were.
um, I don't really remember how stage two played out. Other than some people taking two tires here and there, it might have shuffled things up. But I know stage three, there was a caution, and I think everyone came down pit road for this caution. But they were all just outside of their fuel window. And then they ran a few more laps, and another caution came out, and with Larson leading, and him, Chase, there's a few others. Byron was in that, and they pitted for fuel only, and so when they came back out, they were good to go to the end. When the others up front and stayed out were going to be close, and it turned out a lot of them were going to try and make it anyways. And in all of that, a few people decided they were going to split the stage in half and pit, and then they got stuck a lap down. I think this was the I don't remember if it was Kyle Busch and Gregson. They got Kyle
Yeah.
Busch hit the wall, and then Gregson blew a tire pretty much the same lap. Um, so that put everybody in the window. So everybody came down, put tires and stuff, tires and fuel in it, and I think it went green to the end after that. So
Yeah.
that pretty much put everybody on the same tire, and with those who had pitted earlier and tried pitting or splitting the stage, that put them in the back, and that just kind of messed up the whole order for the rest of the race.
Did you think that when it was kind of coming down to some of these guys are going to try to stretch the fuel and some of these guys aren't going to make it and they're going to pit, did you think, how did Joey Logano do this again? Like, was that running through your head?
Yeah, I was like, "There's no way he's gonna win this race like this." I was like, not the day you pick him and he does this again. I was starting to fume up, man. I was like, no, no, no. I'm checking Larson. I'm like, he better get up there and get there. He wasn't
Right.
moving anywhere. So,
You're a noted Logano hater. Were you more upset at the fact that he was going to win the race or the fact that he was going to win the race and my pick was going to hit?
um, probably just that your pick was gonna hit.
I
That was,
appreciate the support.
yeah.
I had an idea with the whole March Madness and the brackets and, fantasy baseball starting up and people drafting teams and just that whole thing. I actually thought it'd be interesting for us. We're obviously not going to do it this year. We're too far into the year, but if we actually picked four drivers that we were scored based on their cumulative points earned, but it had to be like you can pick two guys that were in the playoffs last year and then two guys that were outside of the playoffs. So you have to keep track of four guys through the entire field.
That'd be interesting.
I think so too, because like imagine if you had Christopher Bell in autumn, like you have to hit one of those races that he won. But or if you had like a Josh Berry, you're gonna if you didn't pick Josh Berry this week, you're you're how many places are you going to pick Josh Berry to win because he doesn't have any history of winning or running super well
Yeah.
outside of, Richmond in the 9 car. I don't know. I just thought it'd be something that might make that a little bit more interesting. We can talk more about that and uh, potentially look at doing something like that next year. I think it'd be interesting. But I'm not just saying that because I'm losing real bad right now or anything like that. But what's that do to us for points then with those finishes?
Yeah, that's you're down by 48 now.
Wow.
Yeah, that was I got stage points and finished ahead of you, so that was a good race for me too. So
Yeah, that's a lot of points to try to overcome. It's a long season. There's plenty of time to do it, but I'm gonna have to start picking up the pace here pretty quickly. I already got dibs on Tyler Reddick this week, just so you're aware.
I'll just pick
I'm just
Larson
kidding.
again, I guess. I don't know.
Ryan Blaney would be another good pick for Homestead as well. But speaking of, well, let's finish the before we transition to the Ryan Blaney conversation. Let's finish the beginning part here of rating of the race. Um, yeah, just hit me with what you thought the race rated out at and why you're rating it there.
And I thought it was a decent race for the most part. There were guys who could pass and go through the field, and this car on a mile and a half is better. I want to say I'll give it I would say 6.5. I wanted to give it a 7, but I still see too much aero dependency in these cars on these tracks, and that's my biggest uh, thing with it. It just I don't know. It just Larson couldn't. I mean, for most of the day he drove back up through the field or through the field when he had to do it, but it just Christopher Bell got up to the front and then he got stuck in the back again. And then those cars that were on that alternate pit strategy, they just should have been able to drive up through the field a lot quicker than they were able to. And it just there's too much the aero dependency for my take, for my
Yeah,
liking.
I'm with you there too. I did feel like Joey Logano had a fast short run car, and when he'd fall back through the field on the longer run, it didn't matter. He wasn't going to get back up through there because it was just too difficult to pass. A guy like Kyle Larson, there shouldn't have been any reason for him to be held back, and I agree with you 100% that this car is better on mile and a halves. I think that the strategy that played out made the race more interesting than it really was. And I really hate drag on race cars. I really hate aero dependency. I hate not being able to pass because of aerodynamic issues. So for that reason, I'm giving it a 6. And it surprises me because I was really looking forward to Las Vegas. I thought it was going to be a better race that I would rate it than a 6. But yeah, there's too much drag.
Yeah, not enough horsepower. I saw a clip with Kevin Harvick, and he made this point that in qualifying they gave him a little softer tire this year, probably hoping for better tire fall off. And in qualifying on a non-drafting track, these guys are holding these cars wide open, and it just there's too much grip, horsepower ratio, whatever it is there. It's just listening to even the Gen 6, 5, 6 cars, or whatever, just screaming down the backstretch and letting off the throttle all the way, just hearing that just let off, and it just you don't get that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to have that screaming so fast down the backstretch, going into turn three, getting off the throttle, and just hanging on for dear life till the car sets in the middle of the corner. Like you
Yeah,
have to have that in order to make good racing. And that's just something that is a distant memory at this point. We got to get that back.
yeah.
Too much security in the middle of the corner. Um, so yeah, that pretty much takes care of that. Where our drivers finished out, where we rate the race. Let's kind of get into some topics of the race itself then. Um, Let me see here. Let me pull up our note sheet. Um, I mentioned Ryan Blaney earlier. He was somebody that looked like he was fast. He was towards the front of the field at one point, but every time it was almost like he had like a big elastic string on him. Every time he got near the front, he just got pulled to the back again for some reason. Uh, did you feel that way? Did you think he was also like? Did you have the impression that he was pretty fast and going to be a contender?
Oh, most definitely. I think he was passing cars left and right there at one point. I mean he was a lap down for I don't remember how many laps. He got his lap back, and I feel like he made it to the top 5, and then had something pit road issue or something that sent him to the back of the pack, and that's when he kind of got collected in his incident.
Yeah, there was a lot of pit road issues, and we can talk about that here in a minute. The actual wreck that took place, it was Bell below him. Was it Busher above him?
Um,
I can't remember if it was Chris Busher or not, but it was Bubba Wallace on the very outside.
yeah, I don't remember. It was in.
Anyways, they're coming off too. The replay that I saw, I don't know if this was a cause and effect thing, but what I saw actually wreck him was Bubba Wallace come off the wall and hit the third car from the bottom into Blaney, and Blaney got turned across the racetrack. Now, I don't know if it was just because of how tight they came off turn two that that's what got Bubba in the wall. But as far as placing blame on that, how did you see it and who do you put the blame on?
Um, it's I don't know, being four wide coming off the corner. I guess more of a racing incident. I mean, there wasn't much room between any of them. I know. I think Bell. I think there was enough room between Blaney and Bell, but I think to me, I thought Blaney just kind of kept moving up because he thought Bell was coming up, and it just they all collided. I mean, it's just a racing incident on the way I see it.
Blaney took responsibility for the wreck. Do you think that that responsibility probably does fall on him or not really?
Um, I don't know. I just
Even in racing incidents, somebody's at fault.
yeah. Um, I say he's the one. I say he turned up into the other two cars. That's how I saw it. I mean, not that obviously he didn't mean to, but
Yeah,
um, that's how I saw it.
just not a good enough awareness in a four wide situation.
He did say in his interview he thought he was two under and one up.
Yeah,
The spotter, there was maybe a miscommunication, not two up and one under.
yeah, yeah. Whatever the case was, it was a shame to see him get taken out on a day where he had such a fast car. It feels like if he ever saw clean air at Vegas, that it would have been night time for the field.
Yeah.
Josh Berry, speaking of night time, Josh Berry ends up getting the win for the Wood brothers. Um, P the reaction to this win is it's not controversial, but it's just there seems to be a almost like a shock that he ended up winning this race that didn't have Josh Berry in the playoffs and wow he won a race with the Wood brothers and then it's like well yeah the Wood brothers are a Penske affiliate car they should be fast. So kind of sorting through all of that, first question to you is are you surprised that Josh Berry won not just a race but this race?
Um, at the beginning of the year, we kind of talked about him, and I didn't think he was going to be good as the other Penske cars because I assumed it was a four team that he got. I guess we'll call it leftovers.
Yeah.
Um, Phoenix, I really saw him up there with the cars. Even Atlanta, he ran up front a lot too. And I'm like, I saw he qualified top 10, I believe, here at Vegas. And I'm like,
Mhm.
after he ran top 10 all day and stuff, that if you showed me this race, first race of the year, and he won, I'd have been surprised. But the last few weeks, Atlanta and Phoenix, him running up front, it just feels like he's the real deal now. That he's got what he needs. He's not in that Stuart Haas junk anymore, and um, that the, he's a fourth Penske guy, and he's going to run up front with him. It seems like now.
Yeah, it does. And do you think that this speaks to how badly Harrison Burton performed in that car, in that equipment, or do you think that it's just Penske as a whole has risen their performance?
Um, Maybe a little bit of both. Because I think Penske struggled at the beginning of last year.
I agree.
And they've definitely been up front this year, so they've definitely improved their stuff. But I think Josh Berry has also accelerated that program.
I agree. That's the thing that John Wood is the one that said that, if we do well, it's, Penske's, they're affiliated with them. And if they do badly, well, they're just a single car team. What do you expect from them? And, I do think that there probably was a combination of, I don't have any issues with Harrison Burton as a person. I just think that he probably wasn't. performing. I mean, he definitely wasn't performing well, but it wasn't getting the most out of that equipment at the time, and the equipment as a whole was down for the majority of the year. I know he did win a race, but I kind of forget how long he's been in that car. When De Benedetto was in it, it seemed like that thing was competing for wins every week.
Yeah,
And I mean, he didn't win anything, but he was up front a lot.
yeah,
And I feel like that you're going to see the same thing that you got with the Benedetto on a better scale, obviously, because Barry's already won, to where they are going to start competing for wins. And here's the other thing. I don't think you should be surprised when Austin Cindric wins the race also, because he's also really performed well lately, won a
yeah,
stage at Vegas.
yeah. He's definitely been running up front with them all too. I think all four of them cars are far better than they were at the beginning of last year.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Um, do you expect Josh Berry to win more races this year?
Um, I definitely expect him to be up front competing for him. Yes.
But okay, but that wasn't my question. Do you think he'll win?
I feel like it's so hard with all these cars so even to tell who is or who won't get a win and whatnot. But um, I think he can get, yeah, I think he'll win another race somewhere. Short track is his specialty, Richmond and places like that. I think he'll be strong. Martinsville, Penske's great at Martinsville. That's one of Josh Berry's probably better tracks. So I think he'll get another win this year.
That's the one that I got circled. I think it's going to be Martinsville that he really runs well.
Yeah,
Speaking of guys that ran well, Daniel Suarez. It's kind of funny. This is the first track that I kind of thought, yeah, maybe Suarez isn't going to be that great, and he finishes second.
yeah,
Uh, were you surprised at his run?
yeah. I mean, it almost feels like he's been the top trackhouse car this year. Barring a couple of wrecks and, legs spinning out at Phoenix, he was running top five then.
Mhm.
He was running top 10 at Coda when he just kind of clipped that curb. And I mean, people dog on him for that he's trash for that. But I mean, it's just, you know, that it's an incident. Anybody could have done that.
Yeah,
Um, it's, I don't remember what happened at Daytona, Atlanta. I know he ran up front in Atlanta for a bit. I probably got caught up in something, or I'm not remembering how that finished out. But I feel like he's one of the better trackhouse cars as of right now.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, surprised, pleased to see him run as well as he did, and I think that I would like to see him keep this performance up and at least make Trackhouse have to make a really hard decision versus him just run in the 20s and be like, yep, we're gonna put what's the kid's name that's behind him?
Zillich.
Yeah, Connor Zilic in this car, no questions asked. Um, but yeah, that I think that if he keeps running the way he is, he's going to make that decision difficult for him for sure.
Yeah. With the way
Spire car,
Zillich is running in the Xfinity series, it's going to be hard to not see him in a Cup car real soon too. So yeah,
um, what was I saying? Oh yeah, Spire cars ran really well. Had good performance, I should say, this weekend. McDowell on the pole for the first time for them. Hosovar was running up front for quite a while too. Do you think that Spire's a team that's going to consistently be in the top 10?
I think so. There's a lot to me thinking that there's a lot more of a um, alliance with Hendrick than maybe previously thought. Because it feels like it's just they're kind of their performance has been far better than I had expected. Um, it just they're qualifying up front. They are running up front. They do seem to have maybe more bad luck than the other teams. Hocevar running up front, and then he was pulling off a pit road when Ty Gibbs, who has been running terribly, he got they tangled on pit road, and that kind of cost Hocevar's day. Um, McDowell was up front there near the end, but I don't remember if it was pit strategy or something that took him out of it. But um, and all they talked about this on DBC with Haley. He would get up to the top 15, and they have two crew members on Larson's team
Yeah.
this week. So their pit stops have been slow. So I think Haley has probably been the slower of the three cars. Um, but I think as a whole they have outperformed what I expected.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of pit crews and pit road and stuff like that, we had a lot of issues on pit road this week. A lot of wheels came off, and a lot of just general tire issues, I felt like. Do you think that that's a product? I mean, obviously the wheels coming off have nothing to do with Goodyear, but do you think that this has anything to do with the softer tire compound, or is it literally just guys trying to be so fast they're not getting lug nuts tight?
That's how I see it. It just I don't know why it happened so much this weekend. Um, it just yeah, I really have no words of why the people couldn't keep their wheels on. I know obviously Kyle Busch lost his, Briscoe, Bell had an issue. I think Alex Bowman he came down and pitted because his was loose. Um, the penalty that Chase Elliott had, they came down and changed his tires just to make sure because it was so close leaving off the jack. So, um, yeah, it was an odd day for tires.
It felt like we had several tire blowouts too. Am I just making that up, or did that really happen?
The only tire blowout I really remember is um, Noah Gregson uh, and Shane Van Gisbergen, but his blew out because he had damage from a previous incident. So
Okay, yeah, I guess that
um,
would make more sense.
that's all I'm remembering offhand, anyways.
Yeah. So obviously not a good year issue. Clearly something. I mean, the people that got nailed for speeding on pit road, it seemed like there was a lot of those. That's just the Las Vegas pit road. Like
Yeah.
that's just how that works. But yeah, for whatever reason, they couldn't keep wheels tight, and I don't know what the whole issue was with that. And one way that Christopher Bell was trying to make sure that his was tight is he stopped in a teammate's box and had had those guys tighten up was it his left front, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah, they tightened that wheel up for him so that he didn't have to worry about losing the wheel. I want to get your thoughts, but I'm just going to throw mine out here real quick. One thing I thought it was funny. I think it was Freddie on DVC mentioned that the spotter for the 19 just all of a sudden on the radio heard tighten the left front up, and I'm like, what? I'm watching him out here on the radio. What are you talking about? He didn't have any idea why he was yelling that over the radio, but it's because Bell was stopped in the 19's box. Um, yeah, that was funny. Clearly pitting outside the box is a penalty. You can't stop in somebody else's box and get service without being penalized, which he was. If he goes out on the racetrack and loses that wheel, it's a two-lap penalty for him, and his jackman and tire changer get 2 weeks off. So it's got to be worth the penalty, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
It's but is it? Do you think NASCAR is going to change the rule on this because of the fact that it is a penalty, but it's definitely an advantage to get this penalty versus the other?
Well, supposedly the team already knew they were allowed to do that. They had already talked to NASCAR.
Hmm.
So it's evidently just more of a surprise to other teams that this happened, or maybe just the media. Maybe other teams already knew this. Um, I don't know, kind of torn on it because, every team member that has teams or teammates out there is obviously if they know or now they do know, they're fine. But you're going to have a single car team that doesn't have anybody to help them. But I'd like to think that a Chevy team or teammate or Toyota teammates or something like that, no matter if they're different teams or not, would help. Alliance-based teams and whatnot. But yeah, I don't know what they're going to do about this. It was a surprise to me. I thought something more of a more harsher penalty I thought would have been coming for that. But tail at the end of the line, that's far better than anything else.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a big brain move, in my opinion, to pull something like that and just take a 5 yard penalty versus a suspension, essentially,
Yeah.
uh, if you're gonna put it in football terms. That yeah, I thought it was intelligent to use that way. Um, well, I think we really kind of covered everything that had to do with the cup race. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
That's all I had.
Uh, your boy Justin Allgaier gets the Xfinity Series win. Corey Heim got the truck win. I didn't watch either of those races. Anything interesting happen in those, or was it pretty much domination?
Um, all guy are definitely domination. Him and uh, Eric Almirola had the two fastest cars. Them two had pretty good battles. That Xfinity car is far superior car to race or watch and stuff, But yeah, I was kind of close there at the end. Almirola was running Allgaier down. There was still some aero dependency with that, and that helped Allgaier because it was a bottom line track. the temperatures were cold and stuff. It didn't allow the track to warm up and allow for higher grooves to be used very often. So all as long as Allgaier held that bottom line, some lap traffic I think helped Allgaier and all of that too. And uh, with a few laps to go, Almirola slipped up, and that was it. All Allgaier needed to finish off the win. So kind of a redemption from Phoenix last week, but he probably still wants that one back too. But
I would imagine.
yeah, the truck race that was, I think I had it on, but I don't know how much of it I say I pay attention to. Corey Heim, I think, led the most laps in that, so I don't really remember what happened there. But
Yeah. You missed the days of Ron Hornaday and Jack Sprague in the series like that.
yeah,
Um, yeah. Anything else you wanted to talk about from this weekend?
that's all I got.
And we're gonna have Homestead Miami coming up this week, and I think that it's one of the racetracks I'm really looking forward to seeing a race at. So be curious to see. I think we'll have a really good idea of the cars, the tire, and what drivers are going to perform well after this week. Really looking forward to that one. Like I said, I called dibs on Tyler Reddick, and we'll go from there. We'll have a preview video for you guys to watch and see who we actually end up picking. And until then, we'll see you after Homestead.